What's up, everybody, and welcome to my channel. I'm a little bothered with myself because I tried to record, well, I recorded this earlier, and when I went to edit up the video, I noticed that my lips were kind of dry and it was just unappealing, so I had to delete the whole thing, and here I am again re-recording the video. Growing pains. Anyway, today I am actually on quarantine. Well, for the next 2 days anyway, because earlier today I tested for COVID-19 in preparation for my surgery. So I wanted to take this time just to discuss the steps and the process leading up to my surgery. I had no idea what was going to happen once I found out that I had achalasia. Side note, every time I say that name, it reminds me of a drag queen stage name. Anyway, I digress, I'm sorry. Learning that I had achalasia and then finding out that it was a rare disorder, I really didn't have any idea what was going to happen to me, or not happen to me, but what steps were going to be taken and what procedures I would have to undergo to diagnose this and then to get treatment. So I just want to talk about that and share that with people who may have just found out that they have achalasia or are experiencing the symptoms that I discussed in my previous video about achalasia. The one thing I will tell you is I was in the medical field once in my lifetime, and the one thing I remember the most about my time in that field was people were quite apprehensive about disclosing their symptoms. And I never understood that, because if you're not completely honest about what your ailments are, the doctor can't make an informed decision, or the doctor can't make a correct diagnosis. Anything that you think is minute, don't dismiss it. Tell the doctor. If you have a burning sensation in your upper and lower esophagus, tell them. If you have problems eating beef versus chicken, tell them. Like, for instance, I noticed that when I eat salads and green leafy vegetables, I don't have as much trouble passing food into my stomach. Whereas if I'm eating starchy foods and certain kind of meat, it's a problem. For liquids, I don't seem to have a problem with, with like smoothies, which is weird because the consistency you would think, but I have a problem with water and soda. But anything that has the consistency of like a nectar, I don't have a problem with it. It doesn't make me feel like I have something stuck in my lower esophageal sphincter. But so that's, I can't stress that enough. Be honest. If you're aspirating fluids and content and it has a funny taste to it, let them know. So the doctor asked me a lot of questions in an effort to make sure that I wasn't missing any symptoms, whether I was withholding them or forgetting to state that, yes, I'm experiencing this, I'm experiencing that. And at the conclusion of my appointment, he told me that he normally has to ask that because a lot of people don't really recognize how rare achalasia is and what other disorders have similar symptoms. But he wasn't sure, and so he sent me for an endoscopy. He actually performed the endoscopy. This was the first time I've ever had an endoscopy performed on me, so I didn't know what was going to happen. It was overall a pleasant experience. Before the procedure, they gave me specific directions, which were not to eat or drink anything for 12 hours before the procedure. Since I knew that I was having an issue with content remaining in my esophagus, I decided that for 24 hours before the surgery, I was not going to eat anything. I was just going to be on a liquid diet. Then 12 hours before the surgery, I cut it to water. And then about 8 hours before the surgery, I didn't eat or drink anything. I thought it was going to be, I thought that was a sufficient period, but it wasn't. So anyway, the staff really tried their best to make me comfortable, and they did. Like when I came into the office, they were blasting this music. What song was on the radio? I think a Sia song was on the radio. Was it Sia? Sia was on. But then right before I went to sleep, Shut Up and Dance was on. And they were just like all relaxed, and I was really nervous, but I don't remember anything, to be honest. The anesthesiologist told me that he was going to deliver the anesthesia, and I would feel a warm tingling tingling sensation in my arm, and then I would be out. I didn't believe him, but I was gone. I felt that tingle, and not even a minute later, I was out. When I came to, that wasn't really pleasant at all. I woke up to the doctor screaming at me, Damien, Damien! And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. I freaked out. I was completely disoriented. And I'm not sure if it was because the content I had somehow aspirated while they were conducting the procedure. But from what I can remember through the haze of that episode, my chest was a little irritated. As I stated in my other video, my shoulder was wet and my arm was covered in like food particles, so I knew I had something was inside the esophagus when they went in. Pain. So when the drugs were off, that's when the pain I started to feel pain in my throat. They will scrape your esophagus to sample tissue, and then they will perform a biopsy just to make sure that you don't have any cancerous cells forming as the cause of achalasia. I'm not sure where they scraped cells, if they scraped the cells all the way up the esophagus, because that's what it felt like. The day of and the day after, my throat really hurt. It was sore, but it was, like a sore throat. It wasn't like your normal sore throat, because the soreness went the complete length of the esophagus. But it gradually went away. About 2 or 3 days later, the only problems I had was with swallowing. It was painful to swallow a little bit, but it wasn't that bad. So the next procedure I had to do was a Barium Swallow. And all that is, basically, you're standing in front of an x-ray on a platform posing. I'm serious. I felt like a print ad model, for real. So my experience with the Barium Swallow was the technician gave me a pill to swallow, and I swallowed the pill, and then they made me stand up on this platform, and I stood in various positions posing as they took pictures. Then they had 2 separate liquids. One was the consistency of a nectar, and then the other was the consistency of a smoothie, maybe. And I had to drink sips of the nectar-like liquid. It's white. And then I got back on that platform and I took pictures. I posed left and right, from the back, from the front. I'm telling you, I felt like a runway model. Like a print ad model. So then, the last part of the Barium Swallow was the thicker liquid. It was about a half a cup, and I drank it in 2 sessions, and then I stood on the platform again and posed. So the platform was supposed to raise up and lay out horizontally, and I was supposed to have pictures taken from that position. But I guess they made a complete assessment from the other X-ray images, and I didn't need to do that particular uh, procedure. There was no real stress behind that test. I will say, though, you need to drink a lot of water after drinking the barium liquid, because it really it can mess up your digestive system. So if you have a bowel movement, it will be clay color, just so you're not freaked out. But it's a pretty simple procedure. The next step in the process was when I went to go meet with the actual surgeon who would perform the surgery. So I met with two specialists. One conducted the Heller myotomy, and which is a little bit more invasive than the procedure I'm going to have. The procedure I'm going to have is the paraoral endoscopic myotomy, and I explained that in the last video, but it's important for you to do your research and then discuss your options with the doctor or doctors. If you're going to look for information on the internet, go to accredited sources. The Mayo Clinic has good, Mayo Clinic has good articles about achalasia, and they also have a web series where they talk about it, where they talk about achalasia, and then they talk about the procedures that they perform. They also have a procedure where they actually inject the muscle with Botox, and it relaxes the muscle. The doctor told me that's normally used for people who are elderly and their bodies can't physically handle the stress of surgery, so they just inject them with Botox. It's a little less expensive, it's a lot less expensive, but the results don't last as long. Side note, on my procedure, it's called POEM. The POEM procedure will last for a longer duration, but I may have to undergo that procedure again. At least he told me that. I didn't find that out in the research, so it's good to speak with your doctor. But research your options so you have them ready, so if you have any questions, you can discuss it with your doctors. So after I met with the specialist, the surgeon, he decided that, and I decided I was going to go with the POEM procedure. He wanted to have a Barium Manometry, and that is another weird, not painful, but just irritating procedure. Basically what they do is they take a swab, a sample medium, and they put some lidocaine on it, and then they numb your nose, and then they have this instrument that measures the pressure of your esophagus and the upper and lower esophageal sphincters, and they insert this through your nose. So that's why they they insert this through your nose, so that's why they give you the lidocaine, and it's still uncomfortable with that. So, and it's not a small little piece of equipment either. It's pretty big. So after the numbing cream takes its effect, the person will come in and they'll tell you they'll start to shove it up your nose, and then they'll feed it into your throat, and they'll have you open your mouth so they can see it, and then they'll tell you, okay, swallow, and as you swallow, they push that measuring device into your esophagus, and you have to swallow continuously, and I can't tell you how strange it is to have a foreign object in your mouth. I mean, in your nose and in your throat, and you feel like the muscle closing on that object. It's just, ugh. Anyway, once once the measuring device gets to the bottom of your stomach or your esophagus, you have to like hold your composure. Honestly, you can't swallow, and the only thing you want to do is swallow. Your body is like, there's this object in your throat and it needs to go into your stomach. I'm kidding you not. But they tell you don't swallow, because they're trying to measure the period between your swallowing and then when you swallow. People don't really, like, I never realized how much time it takes for food to be pushed down into your esophagus. But this, even though it wasn't stressful and it wasn't a demanding procedure, even though it wasn't a demanding procedure, it was still stressful and it was irritating. But basically, you sip this water and you swallow, and then you have to try not to swallow, and then it measures your the pressure in your esophagus. That's how I figured out that my esophagus doesn't create pressure at all. There's no involuntary muscle movement from the actual esophagus part. I could see it happening with the upper and lower esophageal sphincter, but nothing in the middle. And you can look that up online. They'll explain that to you on YouTube as well. And they'll give you examples of it so you can know what you're looking at. If it interests you. It interested me, and I was looking at the monitor, and she was like, "Were you in the medical profession?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm really interested in this." Excuse me. The achalasia symptoms are a little bit rough today, so please forgive me. You'll see a lot of breaks in the video, and it's because I'm having issues with that. So after it was done, they slowly pull out that tube from your nose, and they do it slowly just so that you don't get cut in your nose. And after it's out, you're like sore for a couple of days, but really it's no big deal. At least not for me, it wasn't. After that, I believe, there was another doctor who came in and looked at the results, and she started to talk to me about my options. And I was like, "Girl, I already spoke with my doctor. He sent me here. We're good." And she was like, "Okay, well, you can go." And I was like, "Cool." So I had another barium swallow a couple days ago for a baseline. He said it was for a baseline. I don't know if they actually sent him the images from the first barium swallow that was performed, but he wanted a new one, and this procedure was different. They had me swallow like this large cup of smoothie of liquid with the consistency of a smoothie. It was like almost 1.5 cups. No stopping. Just drink it all. And luckily I didn't have any issues. Like I told you, when I drink sometimes it just gets stuck, and I didn't have any issues with that, luckily. But so in this procedure, they made me again, I was posing like a print ad model, and then they actually did lift up the platform and make me lay on my side, on my back, on both sides. And then that was it. It was simple. One thing about achalasia, or at least in my experience, on my left side, content comes up easier than on my right side when I'm laying on my right side. And that sucks for me because I am more inclined to sleep on my left-hand side. So I have to consciously remain on my right side, and I never get a good sleep like that. But be conscious of that when you're dealing with your symptoms of achalasia, especially once you start to when food starts to gather in your esophagus, see what positions are aggravate your symptoms and alleviate your symptoms more. Sleeping on my stomach is a terrible idea. Sleeping on my back is fine. I try to sleep with the bed. My bed elevates on its own, but if you can't, try to elevate yourself so you're up a little bit, so that the food just, you're not at even. If you're even, whatever you have in your esophagus is going to come back up. And it is not fun waking up in the middle of the night thinking you're gonna drown on your own, like on consumed content. It's just sorry. Anyway, what else was I gonna say? So that was my procedures. If you haven't had a COVID-19 test, what they do is they take a sample medium and they insert it into your nose and they twist it for 10 seconds. Your left nostril and then your right nostril. That's the order that they did it for me. If you have asthma, or if you have allergies, or things that irritate your nose, you might want to take some medication to alleviate those symptoms, because like on my left side, it's not really irritated at all, but my right side tends to be more irritated often. Like right now I can feel it's bothered. It's a little stuffy. So when she stuck that sample medium into the left nostril, it was irritating, but it wasn't like painful. But when she stuck it in the right nostril, it was painful. And this is the second time that I've had a COVID test, and each time that happened. So just be aware of that. Make sure your nose is hydrated. I was gonna say moist. People don't like that word. I don't know what's wrong with the word moist, but make sure you're, I guess it wouldn't work for your nostril. Make sure it's hydrated and you're not dry. But those were the steps in my process leading up to my achalasia surgery. I am currently fasting. The doctor told me to fast 1 day before. I decided to do 2 days. It's a liquid fast. It's not a water fast. And they're also going to give you a medication called fluconazole. Yeah, they're going to give you fluconazole. And that is to wipe out any fungus that is developing in your esophagus. With the food and the liquid being stuck in your esophagus, it's just a ripe place for your body, for fungus to develop. And so like one of my symptoms, I know that that sometimes the content that comes up, it tastes so weird. It's probably because it's fungusy. But they gave me fluconazole for that, so you're gonna have to take that like 6 days before the surgery if you opt to go the surgery route. So just be mindful of that. And what else? And with that, I will be preparing for my surgery over the next couple of days. I'm probably gonna clean up tomorrow, or tonight, and then tomorrow just relax. I'll try to document throughout the day, before and after. I don't know if I'll be able to because I'll be under, but we'll see. But I definitely will let you know after how the surgery worked, how it felt after, the level of pain I was experiencing. But I will be back with an update after this. Anyway, I just want to thank you for stopping by and watching my content, and I hope to catch you next time.